Hi everyone, Shiloh here. This is my Life in Prison 25 to Life, the Chronicles vlog, where I talk about my 25 plus years in prison, the things that I've experienced, a lot of harassment, bullying, what led up to my retirement and why I retired. We have a long way to go yet. Last time I left you, we were talking about the infirmary and how it was too hot and we had to move an inmate, and I got the blame for it even though I had nothing to do with it. But that's the situation I was in. I found a story that happened right after this that I wanted to touch on and I wanted to read to you. I was in the nurse's station. It was mid-morning, probably a couple hours into my shift. I had been on the phone call with it was an important phone call, and it was a doctor at Westchester Medical Center regarding a patient, and this is not HIPAA because I'm not using names or diagnosis, but it was regarding a patient. We were discussing a surgery, pre-op, and things of that nature. So I was talking to the doctor on the phone. Now, prior to talking to the doctor on the phone, earlier in the morning when I got into work, we had an emergency response drill. And what emergency response drill is, you have a mock drill where they pretend an inmate is injured or ill. They place him in the jail somewhere, we respond, and then they time us to see how long it took us, and if we took appropriate necessary actions. So that was early in the morning when we first got into work, probably between 6 and 7 a.m. So this was now mid-morning, almost 11 a.m. And I was on the phone speaking with this doctor at the nurse's station. The nurse supervisor had entered the nurse's station. She started talking to Nurse Daisy. Nurse Daisy was sitting next to me, maybe a couple feet. She asked her about a memo she had written regarding the emergency response drill we did that morning. I'm going to read it verbatim, what I wrote in my journal. All right? Okay. She was asking Nurse Daisy if she wrote the memo because there was a typo. Okay, there was a typo. Big deal. Now, she started asking myself while I was on the phone speaking to this doctor, and asking me if I had saved the memo to the computer. Did I do it? Where is it? Can I redo it? There was a type telling me all this while I'm on the phone with the doctor. I looked at her, motioned with my finger to give me 1 minute. I'm on the phone, just give me 1 minute. I'll be right with you. She could see I was on the phone. Again, she kept talking to me incessantly about this memo and this silly typo. I was half listening to her, and I was already having a conversation on the phone with the doctor. At which time, she looked at me and said, "Just shut up." Meaning, stop talking to the person I'm talking to. Shut up. Get off the phone. I looked at her. I then told the caller on the phone, the doctor, I said, "I will call you back." Without an explanation. I said, "I will call you right back. I'm so sorry, I'll call you right back." I hung up as I could not talk to both of them at the same time. The nurse supervisor was insisting on talking to me. I then told the supervisor that it could have waited until I was done with the doctor. That if I was talking to the superintendent, aka warden, you literally just told me shut up on the phone in front of them. All right. It's faded, so I'm trying to read it. She responded, "I don't care." Another nurse who was working witnessed this. The supervisor then handed me the memo to fix. I then proceeded to fix the memo regarding the emergency response drill. When the supervisor came for the memo almost an hour later. So this urgent repair of this memo that was so urgent, she didn't come get it until an hour later. So I had fixed it, called the doctor back, did my conversation, finished it, and then she came back for the memo like an hour later. All right, yet earlier it was urgent, it was immediate. She couldn't wait until I ended my call. That's how urgent it was, right? Again, I said, that was really rude. I was talking to a doctor. You didn't need to tell me shut up when I was on the phone. And it's not appropriate to talk to employees that way. And that if I was the supervisor, she could have gotten in trouble. And she said, I don't care. I don't care. And walked away. I again tried to talk to her about this, but she thought it was not a big deal. That while someone was on the phone, you could interrupt them. She does it all the time at home, and she tells her daughters to shut up and get off the phone. I was not disrespectful in any way. I was not rude. I even hung up on the doctor to address her. And that, again, I said it was inappropriate to talk to staff in that manner. I did not do anything wrong, nor was I being insubordinate. I was just trying to have a conversation on the phone. So this is the kind of treatment I was getting. It was almost like I was being treated like a 2-year-old. And like I said, things snowball and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then I wanted to continue on with another story. So the nurse supervisor had told the facility director, the doctor that was accusing me of the infirmary, moving the inmate incident. She had told her about the phone call and that she told me shut up. And I guess they thought it was hysterical because I could hear them talking about it. The infirmary's pretty small and I guess they thought it was funny. So myself, the infection control nurse, Nurse Daisy, were all at the nurse's station. And a little while after this phone call incident, the doctor walked in to the medical unit. I was sitting at the chair facing my computer doing my work. She walked in, poked me in the back, like literally poked me in the back with her finger, and said, you need to get up to accreditation, which is a building, like in the administration building where I do the audit paperwork that I discussed earlier. And on certain days I go up there. So she poked me in the back and said, you need to go to do accreditation. I said, oh, okay. I said, I'm not going right now. And before I could finish my sentence, she stated, you don't tell me you're not going, quote unquote. I said, no disrespect, Doc, but if you let me finish my sentence, I was going to explain what is going on. I then proceeded to explain to her that I was the only nurse that's going to be on because the male nurse from earlier left. Nurse Daisy was leaving. She had to take her daughter to school or pick her up, and that I was the only one left, and I could not abandon my post. So that is why I said I couldn't go today. She then went into her office, returned a short time later and said, well, you can go tomorrow. I said, I know, I'm already scheduled to go tomorrow. I was going to go tomorrow anyway. Unless nurses call out, then I would be the only one here and I can't go tomorrow. If we're at minimum staffing, I have to be the nurse on duty. And usually I'm scheduled for Thursdays, and tomorrow would have been a Thursday. And mind you, this is the second time she's put her hands on me and physically touched me. The first time was the actual day of the infirmary incident when I was telling her it wasn't me that moved him, it was the officer that took it upon himself. Anyway, I was at the copier and I was making copies, and she walked up behind me and shoved me into the copier, like pushed my back into the copier, and kind of giggled and said, oops, as she walked by. So these are things that I was enduring, and I wrote it all down. I documented it. I CC'd my union rep just so they knew what was going on, because I didn't see it ending anytime soon, and it was only going to get worse. My supervisor at the time was the kind of person who would sit at the nurse's station for a little while and hang out with the nurses, because her office was kind of catty corner but far away. So she was kind of disconnected. So she'd come out, sit with us. We'd talk, have conversations about family, friends, each other, nothing bad. And then she would go in her office and call another nurse in and say, oh, they were talking about you. They were saying things about you. My supervisor was African American, just so you know. Our dental unit staff was African American, and one of the per diems were African American. Myself and Daisy were Caucasian, and the evening nurse was Caucasian. Now I bring this up because they formed a clique, and if I was by myself on a day shift schedule working the nurse's station, my supervisor, that per diem nurse, and the dental assistant would all be in her office talking, chit-chatting, gossiping, whatever they do, and I'd be working. So there was definitely a little clique going on. So one day, Nurse Daisy and I were sitting at the nurse's station, and we were talking, shooting the breeze, doing our job on the computer, working, not really paying no mind to anything. And our supervisor was in the office with the per diem nurse and the dental people, and the per diem nurse came out and started screaming at me and Daisy, saying that we were talking about her behind her back, that we had gossiped about her. I don't even remember what it was. Just screaming at us, that you picked the wrong person to talk about. How dare you talk about me? Just on and on. I'm like, so Daisy looks at me, I look at her, I'm like, what is she talking about? We had no clue. So the supervisor comes out, comes into the nurse's station because she hears her yelling, oh, what's going on? Kind of giggling. And I said, oh, well, she said, you said we were talking about her. And she kind of laughs and said, well, you were. And we're like, what are you talking about? We weren't talking about anybody. You know, and the per diem nurse said, you guys picked the wrong person to talk about. And I said, first of all, nobody's quoting what we said or explaining what we said, so I know we didn't say anything. You didn't say, you said this about me, or you did that towards me. There was none of that. There was no, why did you say this? Why? None of that. So we know there was nothing said. It was our supervisor planting seeds in her head, telling her things that we never said, getting her angry so that she would come out, yell at us, be mad at us, and then the supervisor would come out and relish in her, whatever it is you want to call it. So it could be a very hostile working environment. And this actually happened on a couple occasions, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the cattiness, the gossiping, and it's sad because women should empower each other, especially when you're strong. Like nurses are strong. You need to power each other and be there for each other and help each other and support one another. You know, not just in nursing, in all walks of life, in entrepreneurship, in homemaking, in school, anything. You should empower each other and be strong for one another as a woman, and not cut each other down and belittle each other and just, I don't even know how to say it, just not, degrade one another. It should be constructive criticism and, complimenting each other on what a great job you're doing and things like that, and not the other way. And in my job, and that's why I just told that little short story, was because in my job, that's what was going on. And there was a bit of cattiness, and it was out of control, and it has gotten to the point where the supervisor a lot of times would be the one to start the problems. And that's sad, because that is, where do you go? If you can't go to your supervisor, who do you go above? Well, the medical director. Well, the medical director's just like her. And So who do you go after that? You would have to go to the deputy wardens. And a lot of people fear retaliation, fear losing their jobs. And in corrections, it's like a paramilitary system. And there are direct orders, and there's ranks, and there's following orders. And it's like the military. If you don't do what you're told to do, you get written up. It's insubordination. To the point where they can kick you out over your job, say, get out of here, lock you out of the prison until everything is investigated. They can take away your livelihood, your paycheck, so people don't want to, I don't even want to say be a snitch. They just don't want to complain, because when you complain, you feel like you get retaliated on. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I have another story which is kind of a long one. I'm going to save it for the next time. So set your notifications to all, so you get all the notifications when I post a video. Subscribe so you get those notifications. If you like the video, thumbs up. Leave a comment below if you need to. Spread the word, because the stories are going to get juicier. I can guarantee you that. Even though getting physical is pretty juicy and not acceptable, a lot of things go downhill. And I have another story, like I said, I want to share, but we're almost at the 20-minute mark, and I don't want to keep it too long. So I'm going to share the next story on my next video. So until then, be safe, be well. Please be kind to one another. And if you enjoy, like I said, leave a thumbs up. Talk to you soon. Bye now.